Hello and welcome to Witchy Wellness Radio. I'm your host, Loren Cellentani, women's holistic health coach and fellow recovering perfectionist. This podcast was created to show you that your body is not in the way, it is actually leading your way. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Loren Cellentani, and welcome to episode 14 of Witchy Wellness Radio, How to Deal with Holiday Stress. We're talking about healthy holidays. Now, before we dive into the topic of being healthy around the holidays, I just wanted to take a break and say how honored I truly am to be here doing this work, sharing my thoughts, but sharing other wonderful women and men's stories on this podcast, on Witchy Wellness Radio. I truly pour my heart and my soul into every episode, and I truly hope that you guys love it as much as I do. If you do, if you don't, something in between, I would love to hear from you. Either share your post or your thoughts on social media using the hashtag Witchy Wellness Radio, or I would be so grateful if you could head over to iTunes and give a star review and a written review about the show. Anyway, if you could do any which one of those, I would be so thankful. I want to hear from you guys. What I can improve on, what you love, anything. So back to our topic today of healthy holidays. Here in the U.S., less than a few weeks away, we have our Thanksgiving. And I know after that, December is just a blur of holiday parties, celebrations, where we're around a lot of food that we typically might not eat, and or a lot of people, and equally can be as triggering. So I wanted to take this episode to take a more holistic approach to the holidays, to this overall picture of how you feel in your body during these time periods, and maybe start to become more conscious, more aware of when you're getting triggered, and maybe when you're shoveling all those sugar cookies down your mouth when really you're just trying to avoid XYZ. So let's start with the obvious here. Let's start talking about the food. And what I like to teach my health coaching clients is that, for the most part, I try not to be militant and super strict with my own diet, but what I do try to do, especially during the holidays, is when I actually am eating, that I am present with myself and what I'm actually eating, and that I can create a mindful rest and restored type of presence. Because if we're stressed out, maybe we're running late, or, we're just kind of stuck in this perpetual fight or flight mode, one of the first bodily functions that shuts down to conserve this energy is our digestion. So, a lot of us might be packing on a few extra winter pounds, which is fine. But if we want to maybe avoid that, and we want to most importantly put our health and our well-being and feeling first, feeling vibrant, feeling full of energy and strength and vitality, then it starts with what we're putting into our bodies. And, I honestly can't resist all of those tasty desserts around the holidays. Here in the U.S. we have pumpkin pie. December comes around. I love my mom's homemade sugar cookies, which are not vegan or gluten-free or sugar-free whatsoever. But when I am consciously deciding to enjoy, to savor, I, one, only eat a couple cookies. Two, enjoy it so much more than if I was just shoveling it down my mouth. And I know this is pretty obvious for anybody, but where this theory or mindful eating really hits the pavement, I think, is during social situations or interactions where maybe we're at an office party or a family event where we might be nervous, where we feel out of our comfort zone, we feel triggered by the environment, by somebody else. So what do people mostly do? We congregate around the food, with the cheese platter, the cookie platter, maybe alcohol, some wine, whatever is your go-to to kind of numb or more so maybe just avoid what your body's actually feeling. And so when we can take this mindfulness approach to these social interactions, whether it be at work, with friends or family, where we feel out of our comfort zone, and take a step back. Maybe this is just taking 3 deep breaths before you take that bite of whatever you want to eat or that sip of whatever you want to drink. And ask yourself, why am I eating this? Am I eating this to actually savor this? And am I in a state of rest and restore? And what I like to think about over the holiday time period is, am I in a state of celebration? Because, what's a stereotypical thing when we go through a breakup or a heartache or break where, we're sitting on the couch watching romantic movies and eating a tub of ice cream, eating our feelings, because we're trying to find something outside of ourselves to alter our state of consciousness or alter our emotional well-being. And what I love to do is flip that upside down. What if we eat something because we already feel great? We're already celebrating. We already are in love with life. When you are in that higher state of being, then the gluten, then the sugar, then the dairy, whatever is your go-to spawn of Satan food, then honestly, your body can process those things. You can enjoy them without, having to eat a whole carton of ice cream, without, hopefully long term, having these digestion upsets, the bloating, the diarrhea, the constipation, the gas, whatever is your physical trigger for these foods. I found the longer we practice mindful eating and we are truly present in our lives, and especially when we are feeding and nourishing our precious bodies, that our bodies not only heal, but they are stronger than ever, and they're able to digest things emotionally, digest things food-wise that we weren't able to otherwise when we can stay in the state of presence, of awareness. And, we can take a step back and ask, am I savoring? And am I savoring till satisfied? So another point with this is when we are actually sitting down to eat a meal during these holiday interactions, I am guilty of my eyes always, always, always being bigger than my stomach. And for a long time, especially growing up, we're trained that you have to be a clean plater, that whatever's on your plate needs to be finished, needs to be eaten. And I was always given, our parents had the best intentions, but I don't think intuitive eating really was big, at least in our household, when we were all growing up. And, we were guilted and shamed into not finishing our food because a starving child in Africa or wherever in the world is dying and you can't finish your food. That's the stereotypical idea that we get stuck, or a subconscious belief or program that comes up, is this guilt or shame that, look at all this abundant food that I have and I can't finish it. Well, so what? I truly believe there's an abundance of food. And, if your eyes are truly bigger than your stomach, that's fine. Who doesn't love some Thanksgiving or holiday leftovers? Because if I don't have to grocery shop, I love cooking and grocery shopping, but if I don't have to spend that money on this food that's already beautifully made, then makes life so much easier. But really, though, I think this concept of being present and mindful with what we're putting into our bodies during these holiday meals is when we can sit down and eat until we are satisfied. And what that satisfaction looks like, and more importantly feels like, is about 70 to 80% full. And it takes from when we put the bite of food into our mouth until it hits our stomach, it takes about 20 plus minutes for us to actually, the food to, so to speak, hit our stomachs, and we're able to feel and gauge how hungry we actually are. So when we can eat until about 70-80% full, that means typically that by the time the last bite hits your stomach, that you actually are, in theory, hopefully all the way full. And what I love to always tell myself, and I know so many of my mindful eating friends do the same thing, is I can always eat later. There's always going to be snacks or leftovers if that 80% really wasn't 80%. But I choose to take a break right now to allow my body the time and the space to do its job. Because, when you're at work and you keep taking on more and more projects and you're just getting backed up, it's almost as if you can't do as good of a job because you got all this weight on your shoulders to carry. And it's the same thing with our digestive systems that, we need to be conscious of how much we're eating and allowing it the time to digest and do its job. So this is important for meals, to eat until we're 70 to 80% full, but also I find myself, especially during the holiday times, staying with my family, that I'm kind of grazing or eating from the moment I wake up until the moment the moment I lay down. And this can equally, even though you're not eating that much, you're eating all day long, this can equally impact your digestion, which is 80 to 90% of where your immune system is as well. To really, in between your last meal of the day and your breakfast, there should be at least 12 hours of fasting. The word breakfast itself is you're breaking your fast. And I know intermittent fasting and ketosis and all that kind of stuff is really big right now. In my head, I just do rough math. I try to leave at least 12 hours, 12 to maybe 15, depending on the day and how much I've got going on physically. But giving yourself that break overnight allows your body to actually fully digest everything and amp it up and become ready to go for the next day. And even though we might be eating the healthiest foods or eating 8 small meals a day, if we're not giving our body the time to actually fully process and clean it out, then I find a lot of people have issues, myself included. So I know we talked earlier about letting loose a little, if you will, with our diet restrictions for the holidays. But I also know for myself that if I ate all of the gluten, all of the dairy, all of the processed shit, that I know that doesn't make me feel good, it's going to affect my mood, it's going to affect my body. And to me, that's not worth it. Now, when I say lax on your dietary restrictions, I allow myself to have a couple sugar cookies every holiday season, and I'm okay. I have my fill. I don't need more. But my overall meal and my overall diet for that holiday period, especially during family gatherings, now I have my family trained pretty well what to serve, but I make sure if I'm in a situation where I know there's not going to be much for me to eat, I eat before I go. And I think that's really important because especially people who have a lot of gluten or dairy intolerances where you never know what's going to be there and what's going to have it and what's not going to have in it, that we need to pre-plan. And I think that awareness and that presence that we have and the mindfulness with ourselves and with our food is that our overall being, our happiness, our joy, our alignment, our, feeling good is not worth it. And yeah, I do get some comments sometimes of like, why aren't you eating? Yada, yada, yada. And you can just say, hey, I ate beforehand because I wasn't sure what I was going to have available here. Or better yet, bring your own food. Ask what I can bring. Bring something that's going to sustain you, like a nice hearty salad with some grains, with some veggies, with whatever you like to eat. Because, when we're coming to these family events, these holiday events with coworkers, friends, whomever, I look at it as a way of giving my presence to everybody there. My presence is a present for everybody. And I try to live every day like that, but especially during the holiday times when we might not see these people very many times the rest of the year. And, it's like you gotta be on your A game. And if I'm going to have some gastrointestinal hell pop up and you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to go over very well. So, I think you have to figure out and tune in and listen to your own body because you guys know what's best for you. You know what feels good and what feels not so good and what your limits are. But it's this dance in between, letting yourself have a bite or two of something that you really love and being prepared, taking responsibility for your health, for your well-being, so you can fully show up for these things. And this leads us to the second part of our episode of, being present, giving the gift of presence this holiday season and every single day. And what that needs to be from you is you gotta be on your A game. You have to be centered and grounded and completely empowered with yourself. And I know a lot of food can affect a lot of our listeners. It affects me. It affects my mood. And you have to be able to tune in and find where you fit in all of that and what you can and what you cannot eat. Because I know for a lot of people that the holiday times can be more challenging, can bring up a lot of maybe old or existing triggers, whether that's with family, friends, or at work. And I think the best way to kind of flow through all of this is to continually be present with yourself first, to ground yourself, to know when to walk away, when to have boundaries with somebody, and to learn how to have compassion. Okay, so first things first, grounding. Why I think grounding yourself is so important and how we can actually do that this holiday season. To me, I think this is it can be a catch-all phrase. And for me, the feeling of being grounded is when I can be centered in my focus in the present moment. So for all my yogis out there, when you're in the middle of a good flow in class and a yoga class where, everything just kind of melts away and you're completely lost in that moment. To me, that's where I feel grounded. Doesn't necessarily mean you have the best balance, but typically when you are grounded, you will have better balance than if you're running amok in your mind. And so being grounded, being secure, centered, you're not telling yourself all of these stories of the past, of holidays past, or worrying about what's going to happen this holiday or in the future. You have a centered focus in the present moment, and you're not only centered in the present moment, you are seeking solace, you are secure, and you're calm and comfortable with staying there. Now, like I said, you can ground yourself in a yoga class, through meditation, through actually putting your feet on Mama Earth, touching the ground. That will ground you very quickly. I also like to choose certain foods like root vegetables. So we got our beets, we got our carrots, our sweet potatoes, any kind of potatoes, any root veggie is going to do the trick. In terms of oils, we can go to kind of a more woodsy, like a cedar or a cypress, any type of tree where you feel like you're in the middle of a beautiful forest. That's going to also help ground you too. I also, when I feel like I need a little bit more grounding support, there's a kind of like the big rage right now, and I don't know. Can I say anxiety community? Anyway, anti-anxiety alternative remedies are these weighted blankets. And number one, they're expensive. And number two, you don't need them. For me, I put on a nice pair of socks when I go to sleep, which I know a lot of people don't like. But I think it also promotes a feeling of feeling grounded. And then I get a heavy pillow, or maybe just fold a big blanket up and set it on my feet before I go to bed at night. And just that little bit of weight on your feet, I don't know what it is, guys. I don't know the science behind it. But for me, I know that it works. And it's easy and something passive that I can actually do. And actually acknowledging yourself leaving your body or leaving your present state of being or awareness. And when I feel myself floating away mentally, maybe emotionally, zoning out, maybe reaching to mindlessly just start eating those cookies, I like to bring myself back and I make two fists and actually pull my arms like reverse fist pumping towards myself. And, I say to myself inside my head, I want to be in my body, or I love being in my body. And I just kind of keep making this motion of pulling myself back physically. It kind of somehow subconsciously, I don't know what, brings myself back. And it's me acknowledging that I'm starting to actually zone out, space out, and start to, self-medicate myself, whether it's through nervously eating or drinking, or, a lot of the times for a lot of us now, it's binge social media, binge scrolling through everything where you're like, oh, I don't like how I'm feeling right now, or this emotion or issues popping up. Oh, let's see what's on Instagram. Let's go over there and just start scrolling down the block. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that can happen. Anyway, just the two fists, pulling them back into your body, it really helps me break those patterns, become more aware, and it's more so of you in that moment continually making the choice to choose something differently and not continually going back to that unconscious behavior. So, some signs that you actually are grounded is that you are comfortable and you actually feel like you're in your body. You feel supported and secure, and that all of this quote unquote bad stuff, these experiences, these triggers, actually have a great deal of meaning and significance, and that it's all here to teach you and show you where you need to heal. And most importantly, you're able to easily relax. And I know that's a hard a lot for people around this holiday season, is actually letting go and in a healthy way, tuning out and more so tuning into yourself. So number 2, boundaries. So we're already grounded. And even before we're grounded, we've already addressed this mindful eating and savoring till satisfied. So we are on our A game. We are giving our gift of presence. But with that being said, I think we need to be aware how and when to set boundaries, whether it's with certain people or certain events in general. We know when we get kind of knocked off our rocker here from our mindful eating, from our gift of presence and being grounded, that's when we need to set a boundary. And I think it's good to be aware of this because, we sometimes have to deal with some challenging people around the holiday time. And when we get triggered or when we are dealing with some more challenging people, it's important to know that your well-being, your happiness, your health is not worth sacrificing. This doesn't mean you need to cut certain people or family members out of your life. Just know when the situation turns toxic, when it starts to turn negative, then that's your time to set that boundary. And maybe you tell yourself before you go to this person's house or go to this event that, I've got 1 hour, I've got 2 hours, and when that's up, I'm out. I make my appearances, I see the people that I want to see, but after that, I know that that's my limit. And I know that's hard for a lot of people because I'm sure a lot of you, like me listening, are so empathic, people pleasers. I think is a wonderful thing that we are this empathic, but when we realize we have to set these boundaries is that sometimes we can't bear the weight of other people. And when someone is spewing toxic crap, their own toxic crap on us, it makes us feel like it's our own. And I think that, yes, we have to show compassion, which we will talk about after this. But sometimes when we're dealing with all this stuff, we have to know when we cannot be there for someone, too. We have to know our own boundaries and our own limits. And I think that's just something that is really important that we should all kind of pay attention to how we're actually feeling before, during, and after interacting with these people, family members, coworkers, friends, during this time, and see how these kind of interactions do affect our state of being. Do these interactions energize you and make your love for life come alive even louder than it was before? Or are you left feeling like the state of the world is crumbling even more? Are you left physically and emotionally feeling drained? And lastly, with this 3-part thing of how to give your gift of presence this holiday season is showing compassion. Because yes, we are going to be triggered with all of these family and friends events that we're going to be put in uncomfortable situations, or we're going to have these triggers and flashbacks to our youth and how things used to be. But I think it's very powerful when we can see maybe these other people, on their own journeys, on their own paths, and being aware and showing compassion for where they are. I truly think that we chose our family of origin, that before we came into this world, we were conscious to put ourselves in a situation, in a family environment, and these relationships to get us to the point or these situations or these lessons where we left off last lifetime. Now, it doesn't mean that, we're trying to punish ourselves by choosing these families or these situations. What it means is that if we're put in these situations to know where to heal. So if we still feel triggered by our family, and in some extreme cases, I really do think that the boundary is to complete cut off certain people, but that's more extreme. If we're talking just about, normal triggers, anger, here and there, but nothing toxic, nothing in the sorts of psychopathic or cluster B personality, that, we have to be aware of our own healing and and realize that everybody else is on their own journey and they're being just as triggered maybe as you are during these events, through these relationships, through these interactions. And if someone's acting in a way that maybe you don't necessarily like, or, I don't know, isn't what you expected, to have compassion that, yeah, maybe they are going through a lot, but they're trying to do their best. They're maybe not showing up perfectly, but hey, none of us are perfect. And I said this last episode, this Sean Corn quote that really has stuck with me. Sean Corn's a wonderful celebrity yogi, if you will. Anyway, this quote is, "See the soul, not the story." Let me say that again. See the soul and not the story. So what that means is to really see who somebody truly is. And yeah, they might be acting up, they might be triggering you, or they might be triggered themselves. But underneath that, we all come from the same place. We all are just little beams of light, trying to do our best, trying to make sense of this journey. And, showing them compassion, giving them your gift of presence might be all that they need to let that armor down and truly open up to that beautiful soul that they are. And when you can give this gift of presence, when you come from a state of feeling grounded and you're already taking care of your physical body with eating mindfully, then that's when you can truly give the gift of presence and compassion. And I cannot wait to do that this holiday season myself. Because when we can let go of our own stories and our own lives and let go of other people's stories, then that's when people can open up and blossom. And I've seen so many radical shifts in my own personal life through my own family when I kept showing up for myself every single day and quote unquote doing my personal work, doing my own meditation, my own mindfulness practices that I knew that to this day, every day, get me to my grounded state, get me to my core empowerment where I can fully hold space for myself, but for the person that I'm being with at that moment. And know when to draw a boundary, know when to walk away, but most importantly, be able to show up and fully be compassionate and give that gift of presence. So thank you guys so much for listening to this little bit of a shorter episode. I wanted it to be short and sweet and impactful for all you guys to apply this holiday season. If you're interested, I am releasing my Thanksgiving meditation from last year. Super powerful. It's called Savor Until Satisfied, which goes over step by step. I think it's less than 10-minute meditation of how to savor until satisfied during any meal, but especially Thanksgiving this year. And if you're interested, head over to my website. This will be in the show notes as well. LorenCellentani.com/freebies. So if you're interested in a free meditation, head over to my website, LorenCellentani.com/freebies to sign up. And remember, open up, surrender, trust, and let your body lead the way.